Welcome to the Coco Case Files Podcast, where true crime meets detective training. Let's open today's case. Boston, early 1960s. Cobblestone streets, Irish bars alive with music, working-class neighborhoods where everyone knew each other. But behind the warmth of community, fear was building. Women were being murdered in their own homes. No forced entry, no signs of a struggle. 11 victims, ages 19 to 85. And at the center of it all, a killer the press would call the Boston Strangler. Imagine the atmosphere of the city. Headlines screamed of murder. Radios reported another woman dead. Families who once left doors unlocked now double-bolted them. Women slept with chairs braced against their doors. Boston wasn't just facing a crime spree, it was staring down paranoia. And detectives? They were under immense pressure. Every time another woman was killed, the city's anger and fear landed on their shoulders. The victims weren't all the same. That's what made this case so complex. Some were young professionals, like 19-year-old Sophie Clark. Others were elderly widows, like 85-year-old Mary Sullivan. Most were discovered in apartments that showed no forced entry. That detail mattered. It told investigators the victims either knew their killer or he was persuasive enough to be trusted. Think about what that means as an investigator. You're building victim profiles, trying to answer, what vulnerability did each woman share, because the offender found a way inside again and again. At every scene there was a signature: strangulation with articles of clothing, nylons, belts, scarves, used as ligatures, often tied in exaggerated knots, sometimes bows. That theatrical touch? It was behavioral evidence. It spoke to domination, ritual, maybe even taunting investigators. But here's where it gets messy. Scene security was lax. In some cases, neighbors walked in before detectives. Reporters published photos before all evidence was collected, and with every scene compromised, the strongest leads evaporated. Now let's step into the shoes of the investigators. They had limited tools, no DNA testing, no national fingerprint databases. Profiling was still in its infancy, and they weren't one unified team. The Boston Police Department, State Police, and the Attorney General's office all pulled in different directions. Turf wars cost them time. Time cost them evidence. Here's a lesson, detectives. Fragmented command means fragmented justice. If you don't unify your investigative team early, your case will always fracture under pressure. Enter Albert DeSalvo, a small-time criminal arrested for unrelated sexual assaults. In custody, he confessed to the murders. He described crime scenes in detail, enough to make detectives take him seriously. But here's the problem. His confessions didn't match every detail. Some were vague, others inconsistent. Was he the strangler, or was he seeking attention in a city obsessed with the case? Years later, DNA would link him to Mary Sullivan's murder, tying him scientifically to at least one victim. But even today, debate rages. Did he kill all 11, or were some murders the work of copycats? Let's be clear. Mistakes shaped this case. Scene contamination. Too much information leaked to the press. Multiple agencies working against, not with, each other. Evidence that could have been decisive was lost forever. As an investigator, ask yourself, what's the cost of one mistake? One unlocked door, one unlogged visitor, one careless press release. The Boston Strangler case answers that. It cost truth. It cost closure. It left wounds open for decades. But it wasn't all failure. Detectives recognized signature patterns across victims early. That's behavioral forensics in its earliest form. They leaned into psychological profiling when it was still experimental. And when DeSalvo confessed, they took the time to test him, verify details, and ultimately pursue DNA evidence years later. Those were forward-leaning moves in the 1960s, before modern investigative science. This case gives us a Coco's law: control the evidence, or the evidence controls you. Once a crime scene is compromised, it will dictate the story, not the facts. As detectives, our job is to preserve the truth from the very first moment we arrive. Let's compare. In the John Benet Ramsey case decades later, contamination also destroyed critical leads. Different city, different decade, same lesson. The first hours of an investigation determine everything. Learn from Boston in the 60s. Learn from Boulder in the 90s. Because if we don't, history keeps repeating. So what do we take away from the Boston Strangler? That fear can grip a city tighter than any suspect. That one man's signature can terrorize thousands. That investigative missteps don't just haunt detectives, they haunt entire communities. For detectives in training, remember, your greatest enemy is often not the offender, but the mistakes you allow. Secure your scene, protect your evidence, lead your team, because the truth depends on you. This case may never be fully resolved, but the lessons are timeless, and that's why we keep the file open. This has been the Coco Case Files Podcast. Stay curious, stay relentless, and above all, secure your scene. Until next time.